to the session. Thank you for watching. Today, I would like to take the time to thank my brother Fleetwood for all his hard work and service and dedication on educating the brown community. He has done a film called The Cotton Pickers, and I am going to show my support by doing a review. Okay? He has a lot of award-winning films and books that I will show in clips in a few minutes. I just want to also say justice for Breonna Taylor, who was murdered in cold blood in her own home that was mistaken apartment for someone else's, and they came up and shot her in cold blood. So that being said, also, rest in peace, George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. I don't know these people personally, but I hate that I had to learn about them this way. Okay, so cotton pickers. A lot of these people, there was an older woman, her name was Mary. There was another older gentleman who was called Bishop Henry Williams, and they sharecropped. So the cotton pickers is about how a lot of people would do slave sharecropping. They would pick cotton, their family would have them picking cotton, and the landowners would say, I'm gonna pay you, I'm gonna pay you. These families had planned on buying land when they were to get paid this money. And every time the crop season was over, they would never get their money that they had plans on, doing things with for their family. They would garden, and every time it was time to get paid, the landowner would say, you're still in debt, you're still in debt. The lady, she was really smart. One thing that she said that stood out to me was that if we had the motivation for education that she had because she was taught to work so hard, then we as a people would not let the excuse of us being conditioned to into not being able to keep up with other ethnic races and learn as fast as them. That stood out because I do agree with her. I do, because she worked harder than me, and my grandmother sharecropped as well. So I understand where she was coming from. That's very significant in my life as well. But a lot of the white people who are not racist are reaping the benefits of what their ancestors did to Black people. So I do feel like we can't quite, we got a lot of catching up to do, because one thing that they also mentioned is that the new generation has disconnected from our elders. We don't have our elders around to explain the migration from the South to the North, which I had because my grandmother, she lived to be 102, and she had her memory still, and she talked. She talked about the Tulsa riots, how old she was, what happened. I didn't quite understand it, but when I see films like this, it helps me to be able to put together what she was trying to explain to me, because she was born in 1915, and the sharecropping took place around the 1920s, early 1920s. A lot of these families, like Mary, she said that they sharecropped from the 1922 all the way up until 1935, and they were still in debt. Mr. Henry Williams, he said that he did it for 18 years, and he would pick about 100 to 200 pounds of cotton a day. And, it still wasn't enough. And I do think that it is time, like what they were also saying, to start educating our own children, our offspring at home. Not saying homeschool them, but when you do educate them, let them know not what the school system is teaching them about as being nothing but slaves, but also let them know that when before slavery, you know, when it came time to talk to God, they had to go to Africa just to get the direct communication with God, because we were the people that had the, you know, we were spiritually in tune enough to communicate with God. Teach our kids about Timbuktu. My daughter, she doesn't know of a white queen like Queen Elizabeth. She only recognizes for like a queen. She's 4 years old, and the only queen that she really knows of is the Iman depiction of, you know, the queen in the Michael Jackson Remember the Time video. So that's the only image she even knows of royalty, you know. And I make sure that, you know, she is educated about, she's fair skinned, but I make sure that she considers herself brown, and we're all brown, so ain't no light skin, dark skin colorism. And it's just important to let them know, you know, about Marcus Garvey, about the Little Rock Nine, about Nefertiti. It's just something to be proud of. And what she was saying, Mary, about how there's no black person that if they had the time, they wouldn't be proud to know their history. Okay, that was just a few clips of Fleetwood's books that he released, and a few pictures that I just felt, you know, that were on my heart today. So when I explained how the new generation doesn't quite connect with their elders as much,
do you know where my scooter is?
I was talking to the baby, meant that a lot of these children, like for instance, they don't understand how close it is to their generation, all the things that occurred. My baby, her grandfather on her dad's side, you know, I always ask, because he doesn't talk about it often, but he's biracial. His mother was a white woman and his dad was a very black man. And I say, you know what, don't you ever think about what happened to your people? Like, what? I just ask for details so I can know what to teach my child about her, you know, people. So one thing I found out about him is that during the time where our people could only do blackface in Hollywood, and they could only be having butler and mammy roles, he said his dad used to dance, and, you know, Jade's father is a thug, so you know, his dad had the gun in his pocket and would be dancing with the gun in his pocket. And I guess one day he decided to take it to Hollywood, and he had a role in the Little Rascals during the time of you know, when black people looked, you know, the first Little Rascals, when they had those roles on TV, when they could only play servants and things, mammies, things like that. He played the butler on the Little Rascals during that time. And now you see us all over TV, and we run Hollywood. So I just think that the fact that that is her grandfather, her direct grandfather, because, you know, her dad is an older man already. So his father was born in the 1920s. You know, during the time of my grandmother was born in 1915. His grandmother was born in, his dad was born in the 1920s. So he would have been 100 and something today. But that is my baby's grandfather. So, I strongly suggest you guys all go and order the Cotton Pickers from Fleetwood, Robert Fleetwood Bowden. He is selling it on all platforms, and I will list it down below so you can go and get your copy. I suggest you watch it with your family, your kids. Everybody will love it.